topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
To Triversity Talk. I'm Wendy Stewart, your hostess with the mostest, and happy Pride. My gosh. It's just been a whirlwind, hasn't it? So many parties, everybody getting together. June is my favorite month. Okay. First of all, I'm a warm weather girl. I just absolutely love it. And second of all, I love celebrating Pride. And if you're coming to us from Milford, Pennsylvania, where our Triversity Center is based in the borough of Milford, I want to remind everybody again that our Pride Proclamation did get voted in Milford Borough. So a reason to celebrate. If you are in the Milford, Pennsylvania area, please support the local businesses, and so many of them have taken the rainbow flags. So they're celebrating right there with us. And isn't that what it's all about? Now, if you're coming to us from New York City, where I am based right now, because I'm usually in Milford on the weekends, but I'm in New York tonight. I will be in New York City on Saturday doing a Pride show in the Garden on 6th Street between B and C. It's actually called the 6th Street Garden, and it is a Pride show. And of course, my dear friend Lady Clover Honey is one of the hosts of the show, as is Dee Dee Champagne, and many of my friends are performing in that show as well. The incredible musician Laurie Towers, John Pietaro, who does spoken word, and I could just go down a list of who's who. We will be there from 4 until I think around 8, and please come support us. Also, if you're in New York, my dear friend Jezebel is having her book signing. She was on this show talking about spirituality and drag. Yes, that is what she talked about, and wrote a whole book about it that is just filled with scriptures. And she's taken the Bible and just woven it into her own way of looking at things. It's an incredible book, and I love Jezebel to death. So she's going to be having a book signing, and I realized I got my locations confused for that. I thought it was at Stonewall. Today, my co-host on If These Walls Could Talk to Moss actually said that it was at the Duplex. I don't know, but you know what? Just go and check out Jezebel on Facebook or on Instagram, and then you can find out the exact location of the book signing. That book signing starts at 4:00. Oh my God, there's just so many things, so little time. So because we have so many things, so little time, my guest tonight is somebody that is having a show at Green Room 42 in New York City tomorrow night, and a whole bunch of us are going. The show starts at 9:30. I believe there's still tickets available. I love the title of the show, The Unicorn That Discovered Self-Love. What a beautiful name, because I know that our guest tonight discovered self-love and then decided to put it on stage. Welcome, Sitanya Face, also known as Alex Scelso.
Hi, everybody. Happy Pride. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. It's so great. You know, I'm very excited that you're doing your show during Pride. It's great.
Honestly, same. And the reason why I say that, like, it just feels good to bring something that you created really from the ground up. And you're not just joining, something because you want to be a part of a group. Like, because I found that was how I started celebrating Pride, just as a queer youth, just wanting to be part of the group and wanting to be with my friends. But but I think this time around it's been a lot more self-reflective and, you know, wanting to do something special and meaningful, like on those days.
It's interesting to me that you say that, because from the very first time I saw you perform, which was, I think, for me, in the beginning of the pandemic, we were on a Zoom, one of those variety shows on Zoom.
Yes.
I had never met anyone that, you know, had body hair to drag. I mean, that's not true. People were out there. Then, like, you're all done and you come out with this most incredible spoken word, which I had to hang on every single word. I'm like, holy moly, this is deep. And then I think I got to see you at Stonewall as soon as we could, like, start to do things again. You were probably at Chauncey Dandridge's show, Freak Out at Stonewall. With God, girl, my memory is really good considering there's a lot of cocktails between then and now. But once again, standout, lone rider, just like not like everybody else. So it's interesting to me that you have evolved, right? And it is only natural that you would have written this show.
No, thank you. It's interesting because I wrote it before, well, I wrote the first iteration of it ever back in 2019 before I even touched drag. Like, drag wasn't even in the picture when I first was developing this. So, but when I first did it, there was something missing, because with the poetry, there was something musical about, like, there was a musicality to it. There was, because it's poetry, like, there was something kind of rhythmic, and I felt like I wanted to move around more. But I just didn't know exactly how to express it yet, because I had the words, I had the story, I had myself, but I didn't have, like, just that extra bit to really make it something that people can connect to and also, like, get lost in. And I found that drag does that, you know, so, like, drag will do it.
I think maybe, like, from what you're saying, you had to evolve, right?
Yeah.
Into it, because you had that, then you started doing drag, and then it all came together. But it's interesting because, and I'm excited to see it tomorrow night, but everything that I read about the show, it's spoken word, it's comedy, it's storytelling, it's drag. I don't know whether you're going to be singing live or lip syncing, doesn't matter, but it's all the things that you do coming together. No, I don't judge people on that anymore, because I came out in the drag scene where everybody lip sync. Then the next thing I know, like, I think for me, it started with Sherry Vine. I'm like, oh my God, this one sings and she's really good.
Oh,
really, right.
I love Sherry Vine.
We love Sherry. We totally love Sherry. But then after Sherry, there were all of a sudden so many mutual drag friends that we have. Boudoir. They sing. They're really good singing. We have all these drag people that came from these musical theater backgrounds. So that's affected. But I love that you came up with your own show. Now, you've done this a bunch of times.
Yes. This one, it's gone through so many different evolutions. I think it's even still evolving, you know, and sometimes when you think it can't go back in the chrysalis, like, oh, there it goes, and it'll come back somewhere else. You never know. Exactly. You never know where it's going to pop out. But I think, okay, so 2019, I was at the Tank, South Oxford space. So that was 2 times in 2019. 2020, world shut down, but back in 2021, did it at Don't Tell Mama. 2022 was back at Don't Tell Mama and Pangea, so that's 5. Then December 2022, Green Room 42. Then I did it at some theater venue, I forgot what it was, but I forgot
theater venue somewhere.
But then 7, and then this will be number 8. So this will be the 8th evolution of it. But I always change it up every single time. I'll always make sure that I'll change out some poems. The lip syncs are never the same. And if I do choose to sing, you'll know, you know, so like this one, I'm not going to give away a lot, but what I can say is poetry is the top thing. I infused a lot more comedy in it for some levity.
I like that.
And then the lip syncs, I feel, are the most they get to the core of what's going on. Like, I think they they sew in seamlessly. And then I might surprise you with a little vocal before like the final poem. So
Okay,
that
well,
would
surprise
be
me. I don't want to know. I want to be surprised.
okay. Got you. Done. I get excited talking about it. So
Well, no, you know what? I have tremendous, as you know, admiration and respect for you and all of our friends that create. I've been writing these parodies. I'm also been working on my book. As you know, she's the last model standing. I
yes.
do want that to become a show. As you know, there's only so many hours in the day, and I started doing these parodies and doing festivals and stuff. I think the challenge for all of us, and especially you, because you do drag everywhere, how do we work all this into our lives? Because then it's kind of like you're working day and night.
Mm. A lot of it has become kind of like pie charting and like
I chart.
sectioning out like the time frames of things to work on. I found that like sometimes I need structure to be able to like really understand how I can exist as Alex and then as Sitanya and like not feel drained or torn in like multiple directions. But
Right.
I found that if I really set aside every day, like 20 minutes to try to write or even read something just to feel
Yeah.
inspired, or practice a poem while I'm sipping some tea, like just read over my stuff, like read over my little manuscript of poems, you know? It's like
I
these
can't
are
see a bloody thing that you have on that page, honey. Let me just hold that
oh
up to
yeah.
the camera. Let's
Oh
look at
yeah.
that. Oh my
I compile everything and then I go through each. Sometimes I'll open it up to a random page and just be like, okay, you know what? I'll do this poem. I'll work on this poem today. And that's how I start to pick out my material. I never want it to repeat too often. And I like to make every performance feel unique and
well,
different. I don't want it to get tired, you
I can
know?
tell you as an audience member, the thing that like blew me away, and when people talk about you is like, and I've heard people say this, does he memorize that? How does he, because the language, it's long and it's
Mhm.
the pictures that you paint, and I'm no sooner finishing up like what I've gotten, because what you do emotes things in people, and then I get that, and then boom, there's a whole other one. So by the time you're done, my brain has flipped inside out and upside down. Girl, I'm surprised I just can even function, but no one does spoken word the way you do.
I'll tell you something, like my little secret to why the memorization became so important. Like, that's the theater kid in me. Ever since I was
You're an
like
actor,
4
right?
years old, since
Right.
4, I always wanted to like just perform scripts and words and things. And I would take it upon myself to learn new monologues every week or learn new scenes for like acting classes I was taking. And it really got me into like, even when you present it, no matter where you are in the process, like just have it off book so that way you can be free with it and have fun. And like once you get past the memorization, I found like you can really just be free with the material and
Right.
let things land. I can listen better when I
Of
know what
course.
I'm about to say, but
How do
it
you
lets
get all those words in? I guess, if I get a script, I have two sitting there now. I'm just going to be going over them in a 2-week period. I take them and I learn them on the elliptical trainer at the gym.
you got to
But
do it when you're moving. You got to do it when you're
right, so
moving.
that's a
So
good trick. But I couldn't do what you could do, the wording and everything. It still amazes me. But you may be, as an actor, one of those people that can learn words easily. I'm not.
it's you know what's funny? I think since the pandemic, I'll be honest, I think that cloud that kind of got us from the pandemic, like I it does apparently COVID affects your memory. Like it does. And I realized that it's I still can memorize and absorb fast, but I've given myself more grace and being less of a perfectionist when I do it. Cause I used to
Right.
be so mad at myself whenever I would like mess up a word. Like I switch and the, and I'm like, oh God, I
Oh
have
my
to do it
God.
again. I've got to look it up again. I've got to do it again. And I realize I'm like, no, you got the message across, babes. Like you can relax. And
Right.
so my new way with memorizing is just when I'm like drinking tea, like I have to walk around with it in my apartment and just kind of like be in motion. I'll do it while I'm doing dishes. Like, even if it's sitting next to me, I'll just like start, reading it as I'm scrubbing. And I think a lot of it's like when you get it into your body physically and you can actually carry the words with you, you got it. Like, they're at your fingertips and they're in your memory. But my brain is mashed potatoes whenever I finish a rehearsal of these 85 pages.
Right. And you can't remember anything that you did. But you know what? Those are very good tips that you gave, because I noticed combining it with my workout, I'm able to retain it. I never thought about doing it when I do dishes. Normally I would sit down and try and memorize it, like just sitting here, right? Picking the paper up. I'm telling you, I don't remember a thing. And it's really frustrating. When I'm on the elliptical trainer, I'll get off of it, not remember any of it, and wake up knowing it the next day. Now, how bizarre, right?
Because you literally got it in your body.
My body's muscular and hard-bodied, and my body is better, and I burn calories. Yes.
You're doing a beautiful job.
Memorize at the same time. So, Alex, I know you to be a very sensitive, really sensitive person. And the piece that you're doing tomorrow night was based on an experience that happened to you. Can you share that with everybody?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the unicorn that discovered self-love, my poetic play baby, is based on truth. And I underwent the ending of an engagement in 2019. And it was interesting because when I was putting the poems had already existed before the breakup. But what happened after the breakup, because the last straw was, me bringing up, like, I would like to try drag. And they were like, that you'd make a very ugly girl. And that was very like, oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much
for your honesty.
For believing in me. And then
how long were you with this person for?
Honestly, like a pregnancy, 9 months. Like, it was a very fast-paced relationship because I think when I met them, I was in a place where I just really wanted to be loved, and I really wanted to really commit to somebody, like have a long-term relationship. And this is going to sound crazy because it is pride, but like, I think at that time in my life, like when I was like 28, 29, I was kind of falling into the heteronormativity of things. I'm seeing my girlfriends get married and have kids and do all these things and just land one job. And I felt like, okay, I got to be serious. I'm going to commit to my retail job. I will do open mics and plays when I can, and I'll audition on only days off, or I'll cut out of work and call out, and I'll do what I have to do. But I'm going to make my money. It's full time. I'm going to date. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids. And I wanted it like a timeline. And
you left out the white picket fence, but go on.
Very well, yes, I was living my Audrey fantasy. I was ready. And it just felt attainable if I followed a plan. And I met someone who wanted the same things. Like, I want to get married. I want kids. Like, once we're married, I was like, I've never met someone like that before, without realizing there were just certain things that we weren't compatible with. Like, I am very sensitive. I like having heart to hearts and talking about emotions. And he was just someone who, I think from his upbringing, like, just felt he grew up in a very conservative Jamaican family. And I think for him, he felt like that was a weakness. Crying was a weakness. Talking about emotion.
From that culture, male from that culture, absolutely.
Yeah. And I felt for him.
It's a different culture than you.
Yeah, and I felt it, and I didn't want to, but it made me walk on eggshells because I didn't want to make him upset. And I realized, like, he was being delicate with me. I was being super delicate with him. So you have two timid people with each other. And I just realized, like, we were not compatible in a lot of ways. When he did propose, it was a terrible day. Like, we had gotten into an argument. He proposed on a beach, like where you would think it would be beautiful, but with his friends who I just met that day. And I didn't even want to say yes because I was still mad. I was still like not in that place. We got into an argument again on the way home, and and then I didn't hear from him for 3 weeks. And so I never told anyone I even got engaged. I made it like it was my own little secret. Right. And I wrote about it, and like some things like in that amount of time. And then this is between August and my birthday in October. I was sick of somebody who couldn't communicate and would always ghost. And so I used to write almost like poems to him to get a message across. And whether he read it or not, I don't know. But it was just the fact that I wanted to be I wanted to talk it out and communicate in person, but he
This
couldn't
person
handle
would
it.
disappear for okay, you had me at disappearing for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That is like
Ghosting was the thing. He loved to pull a Casper,
that's
and that
terrible. But that's so I'm
yeah.
getting angry talking about this
No,
because
and
that's
trust
so
me, I
awful
get it.
and
I get it.
insensitive, like to do to anybody, right? And especially if you're engaged. I can only write it off to say maybe because of being young, right?
Right.
Not experienced, but maybe that is what this person is.
Yeah.
And what came out of it, you birthed a show. That's what
Yeah.
happened. You did
It
get a
birthed
child.
it
You
birthed a
birthed
lot
a
of
show.
things. It birthed, that's where I think my self-love started blossoming in the first place. I realized, like, I don't need a man to be happy. Like, I can be like, and I know it sounds cliche, but like, you can be the man in your life. You can be the partner in your life that you've needed. And I realized when I did end things, it was on my birthday, and it was because he forgot it. So it was a way to like be able to say, look, these are things I can't do anymore. I've realized since we haven't spoken in the 3 or 4 weeks, like I can't be my future husband would never do that.
Right.
And that was our last conversation, and then everything kind of ended. So I started clean slate. 2020 happens, and I'm Valentine's Day, I'm alone,
Okay.
and that's when drag started. And then as I started thinking like, okay, drag is happening. I haven't touched unicorns since November. Maybe I can combine them, and then here we are.
And here we are. And I'm thinking you had to go through that, right?
Yeah.
That experience, that metamorphosis in order to get to where you are with drag, with spoken word, with all of it. Because the self-love thing,
Yeah.
all of Alex and Sitanya came together at that
Mhm.
point and became one. And that, you know what, that is an incredible thing. We wouldn't be having this conversation. You wouldn't, what, so much of the self would have been
Mhm.
tied up with this other person and the
Yeah.
goals and the picture perfect that you would not have grown as a human being. That's just what I think.
No. And what I would love to for people to know too, and like why I even did this show in the first, like why I created it in the first place is like the title is very whimsical and sweet, but self-love is such a grimy, gross process. It is uncomfortable. It is digging through muck and finding gems in it. And a lot of it is like really taking the time to be in your feelings and be upset and be angry, and then all of a sudden find gratitude and realize I don't know why I had to go through all those things, but yet somehow I'm really happy I did, because now I'm here. I can
Yeah.
talk about it. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, but it is a very dark and dingy tunnel to
Well,
trudge through.
but it's okay. So that phraseology, self-love, we hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Um, it's obviously something that's very much in our society.
Mhm.
So this is like a loaded question.
Yeah.
How does one go about, first of all, and in your case or my case, the realization that they need to start loving themselves? Like, what do you do? Is it a process of writing in a journal? All
Mm.
right. Or is it a process of talking out loud to yourself? How does one
Mhm.
discover that self-love?
I think, it was actually a combination of a few of those things, like, those 2 things plus, other things. Like, for example, when I started to be able to talk about it, whether it was with my mom or with my grandma or with the people that know me
By the way, the women
forever.
in your life are amazing, and
Oh,
we'll talk about that later, but I
yeah,
met your mom's incredible, but go
yeah.
on.
Oh, yeah, like, the women in my life
You
are my
yeah,
backbone,
right.
genuinely, and I think that, seeing them be strong throughout their lives, like, I think what it made me realize is, like, strong also means open, and
Right.
strong means, like, confronting those feelings. So, like, being told it's okay to cry and giving myself permission was the first step to not, like, hold it and carry it, and, like, I think when you really do let it out, even to yourself, to talk about it. And then when you write about it, it's now on a page and out of you. So it's literally
Yes.
somewhere else. And so I think that a lot of it is once you're able to really transfer that grief or whatever was ailing you, that pain,
Right.
I
Yeah.
really do believe like it will lighten you, but also allow you to not be afraid to be happy. Because like like I think to get to happiness, you have to be okay with standing in your own emotions like a storm. Like you have to
Oh,
be willing to
that's such
river
a
it.
brilliant way of you are a wordsmith. You have to have the ability to stand in your own emotions. Wow. That
Yeah.
is it.
And it's like I said, it's gross. Like it could be like a puddle that like imagine like those rain puddles that are really dirty and like just but you have to stand in it. You have to be okay with saying, you know what? I don't want to stand in this puddle anymore. I think it was Jennifer Lewis who said like if you sit in shit long enough, or if I can say that, like if you sit in crap long enough, like
Right.
it stops smelling.
Right.
And you have I think what you have to do is address like, "Oh, this is not this." It's okay to say like, "This isn't for me." Like, "This is not something I wanna do or be in," and I realize I'm not stuck. I just have to put one foot in front of the other and, like, get
Right.
myself
But
moving
that
again.
is such an incredible realization, and, like, you've known me for a bunch of years now, and people see me all over social media, and you know I lost my husband March 19th,
Yes.
and
Sorry.
what I explain to people is, I can't allow myself to be stuck. Now there are people that see me all over social media are like, how can you be out at parties to the degree that you are, whatever. First of all, Alan was always the wind beneath my wings. And
Yeah.
seriously, up until the time he went into the hospital, Alan was out at parties with me, right? So you have to know who you are and you
Mhm.
have to know what you need to propel yourself forward. And I tell people it doesn't mean that I'm not grieving, but for me to sit in the corner of the couch and
Right.
believe me, there have been like even in the last 2 months, 3 months, there are so many times where I'm on the couch now talking to you, but I see that happy little corner and I will, okay, Wendy, I start to write it down. I believe in journaling is great or
Yeah.
self-talking and getting what I'm feeling out there. And you brought out things that make you uncomfortable. I went to a wonderful event the other night. The
Mm.
after party was not my cup of tea. I couldn't hear anyone, not because I'm deaf. It was so loud, and there
Mhm.
were 2 pianos and 2 singers and people falling all over each other. This is not like me. I got on my pony and rode off into the sunset, and you know I'm the party girl. And
Yes.
right. But you know what? If I'm doing that, there's a reason for it. I'm like, there is nothing for me here. The few people that I did want to talk to were of a certain age
Mhm.
they couldn't even hear. That it was so
Oh,
loud and crowded and all of that. And I had to be okay with leaving. S-
yeah.
And I know like for you, you have to be okay, Renee, to walk out the door and just walk away. And that's a valuable lesson, and not everybody can do that.
I'll tell you, I was like you, like, just in parts of my life, like, when my stepdad passed away, I was 20 years old, and I was, just starting up my senior year in college. He died
Right.
over the summer, so he died August 20th.
I'm so sorry.
No, I did listen, 2012, and then, like, I
Right.
remember, I used to be that person that always wanted to be and felt like the life of the party. I did, but I found that those loud places at that time, I was like, "I kinda this is jarring right now." Like, it's too much,
Jarring.
and I'm not talking with people, I'm yelling, I'm talking at them, and I
Right.
don't know if they're hearing me, and I think at that time in my life, like, I think I just wanted to be heard and understood, but in a way where, like, the attention is mutual and it feels more intimate,
More
and I realized I
intimate, more
don't need to be around
sensitive.
the crowds, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Yeah,
You
but I realized I needed to leave that kind of party sometimes,
right.
and I realized, like, the party will still go on, but
Right.
you can also have your own in your own way. And me, I grown to love like wine nights and charcuterie with my girls coming over. I
thought you were going to say, wait, wine nights and charcuterie by myself.
Yes, but you know what? But that's the thing. I'll do it by myself. If my homegirl who lives down the street want to come over, she can, you know. Right. So that's great. Like, but that was what I realized. Like, I needed was like quieter happiness, you know, or quieter. Like, even being at parties, it felt. I was guilty. Like, I felt like I was like, should I be here right now? It's like, should I be miserable and at home? But I realized like I do love being around people, but I have a very strong social timer. And I think it's okay to like, I've been out. I said hi to my friends. I've been doing my thing. I got to dance a little bit, bust a move, had a couple drinks.
Right.
I can go now. Like it's okay to leave, and you don't have to be the last one standing all the time. You know,
last one standing. Name of my book.
But that's your job, and that is Wendy Stewart.
Right. I still, you know what? I still love the social thing. I still am usually the last one to leave. But if I'm in a particular party space and I'm not feeling the vibe, I know it. I can't say to myself, "It's you, Wendy." I don't. I'm like, nope, this is not your vibe. Time to go.
It's okay.
That's okay. I want to show your amazing video because we talk about your poetry, your spoken words. So let's let that roll.
All right.
To little Alex, through tears welling up like a moon encouraging a tide to calm down, I'd say, your and eyes sought connection like when glamour first touched your skin, pretending you were a Disney princess in mom's summer dresses and grandma's heels. You wished you were a woman so male love and affection wouldn't seem forbidden. A head tilt that screams, "Daddy, please love me," so your voice could deepen as you anxiously swallowed Tom's toothpaste to sweeten your rejection of your skinny body in the mirror. Mom's maple syrup brown eyes and Dad's dimpled cheek and chin smile. You were hugged too tightly by Mom to compensate for Dad's fear that your presence meant it was time to grow up. It's not your fault Dad stopped drawing and painting. You were his last creation and the vibrant color that would have danced happily on blank canvas. Your baby deer-like eyes and ugly duckling self-imposed complex toyed with images of suicide. Just so you could be a nosy fly on the wall and eat up words of condolences that taste like addictive chocolate donuts. You knew you were different and blamed Mom and Grandma's heavy feminine touch, a feminine mystique, mistake, sensitive to bee sting and dart-like tones that bullied fragile boxes of crystal quick to shatter, mood ring shifts in weather on a transparent childlike face, a smile smoothed on like a band-aid, crowned with bacitracin. Your softness proved to be the cushion that got you back on your feet. Your feminine energy attracted the strongest of queer, near and dear female friends where laughs the louder and dumber the better, and crying is safely uncorking a bottle of fine wine, tasting your femme non-binary finery fresh from the winery. You love people in your life like baby teeth, but never profited from victimhood. Your warmth and favorite color radiates lavender, rebellion. The spotlight finds you now because you wished for it. Whispering into the walls of your childhood bedroom, your voice that you thought rang faggotry and would have traded for conversion therapy is now your calming frequency that rings slightly higher than your past standards. Your poetic thoughts are your magic, and your blood runs like permanent ink with the courage to scribble and make beautiful mistakes. Your youth was founded on punishing your heart for feeling everything and seeing colors in darkness and offering hugs when you needed them most. So, thank you for learning to garden and never plucking your natural grown body hair like weeds and consistently wishing on stars. To give the adventurous, thriving soul you see today that wishes she could hug you, even in a sparkly gown that comfortably hugs every inch of this hairy body. Acting and poetry and drag will help untie your tongue so you can fix your heart and throat to say with your full chest, "Fuck the gatekeepers," and lick my fabulous, ambitious, delicious, soft, hairy, pristine, insatiable talent. This last one I got to, I wanted to dedicate it to.
Wow. I mean, I love that piece because, we only have a couple of minutes on the show, and that is such an incredible talent, and it's encapsulated in that amazing piece. Okay, so I tend to have prophecies and channel things.
Mhm.
I see a play where you've written characters, and these are the spoken word that you do for yourself. You've now written them into characters. And nobody has done anything that's like that. I can tell you, I go see everything. There's nothing out there like that. And I would love to see you do something like that.
Thank you. I've been pitching this play and just ways of I want to bring it back to my roots of theater. I found that I've loved being an actor, especially this year so far. I've gotten to do 2 great plays and work with really good casts. And I realized too, like, I would love to tell the story back in a theater venue, where I would be able to implement the vocals and the poetry and sell these monologues and comedic bits, like almost like stand-up comedy style, almost like going forward and back in time, like with the poems. But I want to bring it back to a theater space and bring it back to my roots, because I think that's why a lot of the stuff comes together. Because I remember being told in acting school that, you can hide the queerness, so like it's okay, like keep it hidden. When I started drag, I remember being told, like, I mean, it's great you do the poetry, but like you might want to just do lip syncing just in case, so that way you get booked on more things. When I would do poetry, it would be, maybe not talk about gay love so much, or your sexual assault, or certain things, right? But what I realized is I did the opposite of all of those things. I would commit to memorizing monologues and outright practice things from plays by queer writers and be a queer actor. And that's gotten me work consistently. With poetry, I never watered down my stuff for anybody. And that got me to connect with so many people. And then incorporating all of that in my drag, and still holding on to wanting to be Lady Macbeth, or wanting to, do like, whether it's a Shakespeare or just play like a really strong, like, female character, or like a good drag character where it's not questioned about who they love it. They just are that person in that play. Even bringing unicorn further with me, because it is, like I feel like it feels like I've worked on it for so long, because it's been like 4 years, but I think that it's going to keep going. There's something.
It grows as you grow. You can add, subtract, whatever, because that's your piece. But I see, even I can see you doing, like, it's comedic, but like, Oh Mary, right?
Oh yeah.
From off Broadway. I see you having the ability to write these words for other performers, for them to do. And maybe everyone starts out in a workshop, and then you take it and you craft it in your own special way, and you create the artistic piece from that. It's just, this is all coming into my head now, so I'm just sharing it with you.
No, you're touching on things that I've always wanted to do. I found that I've written a lot for myself.
Yeah.
I haven't, and I remember, like, starting off in college, like, writing for other people, but I found that writing for my own, like, poetry is very introspective and very much about your own experience. And because it comes from that truthful place, like, the authentic way is you perform those things. So with Unicorn, it's like I'm currently pitching it to some off-Broadway theaters. But fingers crossed, thank you. Listen, everybody, please cross the toes too. I see it going further and being, and like, letting that character, that drag character I am in it, evolve. But I also, one of the things I've always wanted to do, and it's gonna sound crazy, I always wanted to, whether it was help create like an original musical or like an original play, and I wanted to be able to bring on newcomers or people that I've known, like kind of bridge that gap and just create something new for people. So like that's been on the horizon. I've even wanted to do a bare bones version of Chorus Line because it's something I can't do, but it's something I know I can direct the crap out of and really bring the best out of people, especially new people trying to make it. And I
Trying
think
to make it
something
right.
special.
It's funny
I
that you
thought about it.
referenced Chorus Line because my newest parody came from the song Tits and Ass. It's called Don't
Oh.
Say Gay. And don't say gay, sent to see other day. You got it. So
I
I'll
love
be
it.
that Saturday in the East Village on 6th Street in the garden between B and C. But there's a lot when I write, I take from, other things that inspire us. And what you just said about, directing unknowns in Chorus Line. My friend Sweetie, who you remember, rest in peace, took different plays like Steel Magnolias
Mm.
and Children's Hour and cast readings with only people that did drag. So we're talking early Bianca Lee, a lot of the people that and they were Dallas Dubois. They were all in these productions that were so unbelievable, and they were reading, but they were all incredible actors like yourself. And Sweetie would produce these shows at the New Eurekan Theater, and they were amazing. And I haven't seen anyone do anything like that since. You have such incredible potential, Alex. So, I'm very excited to see you tomorrow night. And because I've been trying to get to your show, I've managed to miss every single one of them, to my credit.
But you know what? It's for good reason, especially
I'm
because
always working.
you're working too,
Right. I'm out all the time. And I had planned this night at Julia's Bar, the once a month thing. And then we got the thing for your show. And Rose told me, and I'm like, oh my God, what time is it? She said 9:30. I'm like, yes. Yes,
Well,
I can
that
do
was
it.
the funniest thing because I remember when I got the email confirmation, all that stuff. And it was funny because originally like I was trying to push it to like a Saturday or like I was going for one of those days. But the only one they had available specifically in June was the 13th. It's a Thursday and 9:30. And at first I thought like that's a little like for me, I was like, that's a little late. But also at the same time, I was kind of like, well, Thursdays could be the new Friday. And like if you build it, they will come. So like let's just go with it. But it was one of those things like another reason to let go and just
Right.
realize, okay, it actually works out that it is a little later. That way people who are working a
Right.
little bit like to 6 or 7 can grab something to eat, relax, and then come to see
Absolutely.
an emotional show.
Right.
And
And
enjoy.
Thursday, FYI, has always been a huge, you know what? I've been in the city my whole life. There are a lot of Saturday nights or Friday nights I won't go out because of the influx of the others.
Yes.
Thursday night is like, that's a great night to party. And I'll tell you the proof of it. If you go to get an Uber at 11 o'clock at night, the prices are through the roof on Thursday night because there you go. Use Uber as your barometer there. Okay.
Thank God I am crashing at one of my good friends, Sammy. Like, thank God she lives like right in Hell's Kitchen. So I'm like,
Good.
girl, I'm taking my garbage bag full of my props and my
Yep.
little backpack. And I
You
said,
don't have to go on the
I am
subway.
crashing on your couch. I am crashing on your couch.
Right.
Like,
You don't have to get on the subway or take the $60 Uber ride. So I want to just touch upon because we're down to our last 5 minutes, and I knew this would happen with you because there's always so much to talk about.
yeah.
How have your mother and grandmother been pillars of strength for you?
Mm. Well, I'll start with my grandma. My grandma was always someone who could easily be my confidant. Like there are people in your life who you don't have to over explain things to, and for some reason they just get you. And for my grandma, that was me. Like, but she also gave me really like good advice, and I know that she believes in me because if I was bad, I've seen the way she's talked to people in my family. I've seen the way she is. If she doesn't like something, she does not hide it. She is not gonna, But I remember when I was a little kid and I didn't get a role that I wanted, elementary school. She goes, if you want to really do this, you have to have a thicker skin. Like, you
Wow.
need to have a thicker skin. Hi, sweetie. You have to have a thicker skin. And if you
Right.
don't,
She's
it will be
absolutely
a detriment. It will be a detriment. You won't survive it. And I think when she really came out with that, she goes, "That's how you know I do think you're good, because I would tell you to just stop if that was
right.
the case." And so my grandma always gave me the real. And
Now
then when
your
it came to
grandma
my
is
yeah,
the Italian. She's Italian.
no, she's actually Jewish. My mom and grandma are
Right,
Ukrainian
mom
Jewish.
I couldn't remember who was what because it's Jewish, Italian, and Spanish.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
Got
Jewish,
it
Italian,
all.
Puerto Rican.
Right.
Yep.
So your
So
Jewish grandma, she told you the truth, and they
oh,
know.
always, like
Right.
always would give the truth about everything, but it just felt real when I remember she said, like, there's gonna be a day I might not be able to make every performance that you do. So what I would do is I would start performing some of the new material and poems or lip syncs, and I would just perform it in her kitchen. I would go full out and just do the performance for her.
Right.
And she was like always like so happy to see it, you know. So that's how I know she loves what I do.
Right.
And then with my mom, um, I had to remember that, you know, a lot of her queer friends in the 80s, early 90s passed away from the AIDS epidemic,
Yeah,
right?
like
So I
me. Yeah.
remember, so coming out to her was not so much like, I think I was afraid that like it was because she didn't like that I was queer, but I realized it was because it reminded her of what she lost. And it also
Also,
reminded her,
your
yeah.
mother and I are in that same bracket where we lost all those people. And I think, like, my daughter's 31, but I think about, more than likely if I had a son, my son would have been gay. I just know that would have happened. But as a mom, it would always be in the back of my mind about AIDS. I mean, now it's still out there now,
Yeah,
but it would be in my mind as a mother, right? Because
right.
it's your kid. So I totally get that. I totally
Yeah.
get that as a mother.
It's not the death sentence it
No,
was.
no, absolutely not.
And that's why, like, I think what also helped too is like my mom always encouraged me to be open and talk with her about anything, you
I
know, and
love
like
it.
not to hide things. And I think that what made me see her as such a strong person was she went into a career like as a, you know, she was a TA with a lot of special needs children in like elementary school. And I know how it would exhaust her. Like I know the 20 minutes when she would come home, she'd be like, I just need 20 minutes of not anybody
Yeah,
near me. And
right.
then by all means, please love me and bother me. And like I think once we started understanding each other's like rhythm and when to communicate and when to be there for each other and how to be there for each other, um, I'm her biggest fan too. Like now that she's retired, I want to see her do the things that she never got to do, like travel and like, you know, go, even if it's just like go see some more theater, like let's do things
Yeah,
together. Like I realized my mom and I could do a lot together. Like we don't get bored. I'm not like, Mom, you're embarrassing me. Like I don't feel that way at
right,
all when my
right.
mom's around. And I think that because we can make each other laugh and she does believe in what I do.
She
And
ta
I
I've seen her at your shows and the pride on her face, and I think how lucky you are to have that because we know certainly in this community, a lot of people don't have that.
no.
And you're lucky that your mom is local too, and what
Yes.
a gift. You get to spend time with this incredible person that's your mother. My daughter was just over and she left. I'm like, oh, I'm doing a show with Sitanya. I had to sit down and look at my notes. And she lives in Brooklyn now. And
Oh, wait, what part?
so she's in Gowanus Park Slope.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm South Brooklyn, like below that. Like
Yeah,
I'm Sheepshead Bay. My mom is Marine Park. And then and I'm in Gowanus a lot.
you're in Gowanus a
Actually.
lot. So yeah, she lives right near. There's a bar called Lucky Strike where we're
Oh, I know where that is.
screening Drag to Death there on Monday night. If you can
Ooh.
come at 7:30. But my daughter told me it's a metal bar. That's what she told me there. It's a heavy metal bar. She's like, Mom,
Oh,
that's not a queer bar.
yeah. You know, it's
I-
funny. I don't know if it depends on the night or depends on what, but yeah, I was gonna say they do have some metal shows there.
They
For
do.
sure.
All right. So, Alex, we're down to the wire. Sitanya Face, Alex Scelso, tell everybody where they can find you tomorrow night.
All right. You can find me literally tomorrow night, Thursday, 9:30 p.m. at the Green Room 42. There will be tickets still sold at the door. And I would love to have you. Seating is very prompt, so get there a little bit early, like 15 minutes before, and the show starts promptly at 9:30. You can also find me at various gigs, which I will advertise on my Instagram at Sitanya Face Queen, SITANYA Face Queen on Instagram, and then Facebook, Alex Scelso. Feel free to find me, and I always post wherever I am.
That's fabulous. And just say cheese for me. I love taking pictures.
Hey.
I want to thank you for being on the show, and happy Pride to you. And I shall see you tomorrow night.
Happy Pride. I can't wait to see you tomorrow night. The hug you're going to get. Oh, I love you.
Unicorn hug. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.